Verticality is nothing without access. Stairs and ladders are the lifelines of a vertical Mordheim board. And today, we're building them to fit anywhere in the City of the Damned for your warband to fight for the precious weird stone.
Hey good folks, my name is Leif and I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel called Devs and Dice. In the last video, I built some modular riser, the foundation of a vertical, ever-changing battlefield. But in order to make them playable, we need a way to go up and down. We're making modular stairs and ladders. But before we get into it, I want to ask you a small favor. If you like this channel and the content I make, then please do what you can by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Thank you. Now let's get cracking, shall we?
So let's make some stairs. Now in the past I've made some modular stairwells using this process where I cut out small sheets of XPS foam in 5mm thickness and layer them onto each other as a base. That technically works, but I find that the glue joints bring small offsets, which then in the end is quite noticeable. So this time I made a jig, which would help me to have a more consistent height. I'm making two sizes of stairs, about 1 inch wide for narrow alleys and about 2 inches wide for broader approaches. My plan was to make a whole bunch of these, as I know they will be used in tandem with my Mordheim risers. Once I have the core of the stairs in place, it is a simple thing to just brick them up using my standard size for XPS foam bricks, 10 x 5 x 5 millimeters. Since the specific measurements for the core is evenly divisible by 5 millimeters, each brick fits snugly into place. The stairs needed to be modular and stable, but light enough to move between games. Each base is flat so it sits anywhere, and the heights of the stairs of course match the risers I built earlier. For the actual landings, I decided to increase the size of the stone slabs to 10 x 10 x 5 millimeter. Not only does this look better, but it reads better as well in my opinion, meaning that players can more easily identify the landings and see where you're supposed to place models. These modular stairs would be ideal for tighter spaces as they're just over 1 inch wide. And once I had made about 6 of those, I decided to tackle the wider stairs. The good news is that I used the exact same technique for these larger ones as I did for the more narrow ones. Now I'm not gonna lie, this took some time, but in the end I had a total of 18 modular stairs, 12 wide and 6 narrow. Now the only thing left was to make sure that these stairs do not flip over. I used a hot wire wand to create a little bit of a hole, and then I used some bolts to weigh them down. I secured them by using some hot glue and then pushed it towards some parchment paper to ensure that I had a flat bottom. Seems to do the trick fairly well. The second modular wargaming terrain I wanted to make was step ladders. I've had some very specific requirements for these, which was that I wanted them entirely made of wood, as it's much more durable than XPS foam, and I also wanted to make enough space between each step so that the base of a miniature could be wedged into it. With those specifications, I started with printing out a template which I glued onto some 2mm thick and 10mm wide flat wooden sticks. I cut out each of the steps using this excellent saw I recently bought from Tamiya. Now I know that some of you are thinking, why didn't I use my laser cutter to expedite the process? Well, perhaps I did, but I still wanted to show you that this is very much possible using simple tools. Once I have cut 2 of these for the main structure, I cut out some 1 inch wide steps. I chamfered the edges of the steps on one side just to make it easier to wedge a miniature base in there. The one final step I cut out from this 18mm wide flat wooden stick, and the reason for this will become apparent soon. Once all steps are cut, I simply glue them in place using some white glue. I'm doing my best to make sure that the steps come in as straight and clean as possible. Once the glue is dry, we can test to see if it works, and boom, there you have it. The larger step up top acts like a nice lip that secures the stepladder from moving a bunch. And testing this on some minis with varied base thickness worked fine as well. Time to make some ladders, specifically 2 types of ladders. For this I prefer to use these squarish barbecue bamboo skewers. I try to use as much as possible of one single skewer, which gives me 2 rails that will be well over the 2 inches I have as a floor height. I start with marking some holes every centimeter along the railings. Once I have some nice indentations, I start drilling through the bamboo skewer with a 3mm drill bit. Now this can be done with the ordinary drill vise, or we can start playing with power, using an electronic drill with a chuck. It does speed up the process, but again, this can be done manually as well. Once I had one railing defined with nice clear holes, I took the other undrilled one and placed it directly underneath. Then I carefully drilled the first and last hole. Then we use some toothpicks to jam into the first and last holes. This ensures that we can drill the rest of the holes while using the first railing as a guide, which should give us 2 rails with identical holes. The next step is to cut these toothpicks to about 1-inch steps. I usually can do 2 per toothpick. Once we have a bunch cut off, it's an easy task to just insert them into the holes of the railings. The good thing is that you can adjust the width of a ladder. I like to use Sir Scale a lot as some sort of a reference. Once we have the steps where we want them, we simply seal the deal by using some white glue. Once this has dried, I snip off the excess from the steps and use some fine grit sandpaper to make sure that the ladder looks spiffy. I wanted to make another type of ladder using very much the same material as with the first one, so we start out with the same bamboo barbecue skewers. The measurements are also the same as with the first version. Where this version starts to differ is when I purposely make the railing a bit skewed and start supergluing in some cut-off toothpicks. But don't make these too straight. Jerry-rigged is the name of the game. The main difference is this: cotton twine. This is normally used for cooking, but I have discovered a couple of wonderful side effects of this twine. First one is that it's the approximate right scale to pass for rope in this 28mm world. The process is a bit on the finicky side, but basically what I'm trying to do is to tie some sort of knot around the step and corresponding railing. The second aspect that I love about this twine is that it reacts to high-flowing superglue instantly and becomes rock hard in seconds. So once I have a knot I'm happy with, I secure it using some superglue and cut off the excess. You know how I keep harping on about storytelling in your terrain? Well, here's another example of that. The end result is that we have 2 types of ladders. One is most likely made by a skilled carpenter using evenly cut timber and all of their craftsmanship, but it has suffered some damages as the comet came down. The other ladder is a desperate, more ramshackle thing thrown together after Mordheim fell into ruin. Crooked, warped, patched together from scavenged wood, rope, and whatever was lying around. The sort of thing you'd only trust if you were running from a Skaven warband. Painting the modular stairs will have a similar process as I did with my risers. I start with some black primer, then some white paint for zenithal, cover all of it with some transparent burnt umber ink. Stipple in some dark grey here and there. Dry brush some light grey. Use some wall filler to act as mortar. Use some coconut fiber as dirt and lock it down with a fixer. Attach some posters here and there. Add some graffiti using white ink. Use some wash for grime and then some blood effect paint splatter to finish it off. I painted the ladders using various browns to get some interesting undertones. A big thanks to my patrons for their support, and a special shoutout goes to my champion and legend level patrons. Agresomnia, Andreas Winberg, Arjen Angenent, Fredrik Kersgard Lund, Gunnar Byström, Henrik Mannerstråle, Hunters Cave, Madners, Magnus Solberg, Teddy, Anton Hand, Battlecorgi the 7th, Gun Panda, Niklas Swedenlind, Oliver Granlund, RD, and the Elder Kind. The final touch was to use some light grey dry brush to make them look old and gnarly. And at this point, let's have a look at the final result. I am happy that I powered through and made myself enough stairs and ladders to support any game of Mordheim. With stairs and ladders in the mix, every level is reachable, every route is dangerous, and every battle becomes more dynamic. You can create choke points, ambush routes, and dramatic last stands, all without fixing anything permanently to the board. But what do you think? Could I have done something better or different? Please tell me in the comments downstairs. And in the next video, we'll be connecting these structures in the most dangerous way possible with modular bridges. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next video.